Ty Simpson had a secret pre-draft meeting with Sean McVay. That's right, Rams House. We're going to break it down on today's episode of the Rams Report, presented by Prize Picks, and what it means for this team and for its pre-draft process. What Ty told us about this secret meeting and what actually went down. What Les Snead kind of added a little bit later. We'll talk about that as well. A lot to unpack from this ESPN radio interview. So let's not waste any time. Let's hear from Ty himself. He said, "We tried to keep this under wraps as long as we could." And the question here was, when did you kind of know that there was interest from the Rams? It was something to where I knew they were interested, but they wanted to make it private and didn't want people to know that they were interested. So I had some secret meetings with Coach McVay, and I just was trying to be on script and do what everybody told me and not to tell anybody. And it was just football. It was just straight football, speaking of the meeting. And it was like a kid in a candy store. Me and him are sitting there, and we're just going back and forth. You could tell the obsession he has for the game, and you could tell the love he has for quarterback play. It's something that I appreciate. So being with him and then getting to know him and then just seeing a little bit of how I would get coached if I was fortunate enough to go there was something that I couldn't have asked for a better situation. So I think there's a couple main takeaways from these quotes, the biggest of which, and the one that I just kind of want to drive home. If there's one thing that you walk out of this video knowing, it is that Sean McVay was always on board with this pick. It is time to put this narrative down for good. We're taking it out back. It's good night for the narrative that Ty Simpson was not a quarterback that Sean McVay wanted, or that Ty Simpson was not a pick that Sean McVay was on board with. I've told you guys the entire way, from draft night to here, even when I was reactionary and I was upset that Ty Simpson was the pick, I never indulged in this narrative because this narrative makes no sense. It is not congruent with the way that Les Snead and Sean McVay make decisions and have made decisions throughout their decade-plus tenure working together. You don't change those kind of protocols and practices overnight, especially when you're talking about one of the highest draft picks that they have made together as a duo, one of the most important decisions that they have made together as a duo, undeniably. There is no way that Sean McVay got screened out or boxed out here. He has absolutely earned his place at the table, and he absolutely had his word to say, and his word was positive. And if you agree that it is time to put this narrative to bed, time to move on from the idea that Sean McVay was not on board and realize that everyone in the Rams organization is behind Ty Simpson right now. And as Rams fans, we got to get there too, like today's video. Let's get it out to more Rams fans so that they know the truth of the matter and not the ridiculous narratives that some people out there are trying to spread that Sean wasn't on board with this pick because they're trying to be body language experts. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't agree with any of it. We'll continue this discussion after I give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. If you guys love daily fantasy or you just want to make watching sports even more exciting, you've got to try out Prize Picks. It's a great time to get started on Prize Picks too, with playoff basketball in full swing and the baseball season well underway. There's just no better place to cash in on all that action than Prize Picks, and it's so easy to play, guys. You just pick 2 to 6 players. You select more or less on stat projections, whether it's points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, others across all sports. They've really got everything. If you're more of a baseball guy, you could choose from hits, home runs, or strikeouts. They also have awesome social features, guys. They're basically a social media platform, the way you can follow your friends or your favorite creators, including me and producer Mike. I'm Jackson Durham with no spaces. Mike is at Mike Jaraputo with no spaces as well. And you can drop a follow and see all the lineups that we've been placing, including this one for the playoff basketball basketball action. I'm going with the more on Jaylen Brown. We're going with the more on De'Aaron Fox and the more on Jrue Holiday. I say this sometimes, life is too short to take the less. So you guys could tell me on this lineup. You could fade me on this lineup. Whatever you do, just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. And if you're a brand new user, download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and in the description. So again, it is 100% clear to me from this quote, and it's been clear for a while now, that Sean McVay wanted this pick, that this is something he was on board with at the end of the day. I think we have to realize that. And if you're still hung up on it, I don't know what to tell you. It could not be more of an indication. The man himself has told us that he is excited about bringing Ty Simpson in, that his reserved attitude was more about protecting Matthew Stafford and wanting to remind people and instill the idea that, hey, this is still Matt's team, despite this decision, even though, which is totally understandable. Again, I made this analogy. If you're office brought in the guy that's going to one day replace you, even though you know you're close to retirement, and they're parading him around the office to everybody that'll listen, going, this guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We cannot wait to see what he's going to do. You're going to be sitting over there kind of feeling like old news, even though you've been doing incredible at your job. You were just the employee of the year last year, and in the case of Matthew Stafford, the MVP. So you can understand how even in that situation, which is so minuscule compared to an NFL team and the grand scale that that's all on, the way McVay wanted to be protective of Stafford's feelings. But he is absolutely excited about bringing this kid on board. And why would you not be? I think the more I watch him, I think he's the best quarterback available in this draft class. I know that's a bold thing to say. Even producer Mike's raising his eyes right now. Because, again, Fernando Mendoza is in this draft class. A lot of people are in on Fernando Mendoza. But I think Ty Simpson has a real chance to be the best quarterback in this draft class, given the opportunity that he has to learn from Matthew Stafford, to work with and learn from Sean McVay. An unbelievable situation to be put in. And I think if you're still wondering why all the secrecy, why the secret meeting in the first place, what's going on? Why was McVay reserved? Again, I think it really does start with the respect that the NFL has for Sean. If you, as the Rams, put out there that Sean McVay is interested in any way, and by that, obviously, you're not going to see a tweet that's like, Rams head coach Sean McVay likes Ty Simpson. It's going to be the Rams had a pre-draft visit with Ty Simpson. The Rams attended Ty Simpson's pro day. We know that they were there, 100% confirmed. Neither of those things were true in real life. We never got those things because the Rams knew Sean McVay is so respected. His opinion on offensive idea and offensive thinking is so influential on the rest of the league. If it was known that he was interested in Ty Simpson, that he viewed Ty Simpson as a franchise quarterback, the rest of the league, even if their own evaluation process didn't tell them that, would have deemed it so purely out of respect for Sean McVay in his opinion. That is what they were risking. And we know that is the case because think about the development of tight ends this season. What did the Rams do last season? Run more 13 personnel than anybody in the NFL. What did we see in the NFL draft this year? A crazy run on tight ends where guys were going way earlier than people expected. Why do you think that might be? Because teams are trying to run 13 personnel just like the Rams and just like Sean McVay because they follow this guy around like puppies at the end of the day. They want to be on his heels and can't blame him at the end of the day because he continually proves that he is a revolutionary offensive thinker. And I think, again, That's why we got to trust. And that's why it's so ridiculous to think that Les Snead would have ever made a decision like this on the offensive end of the football without including one of the greatest offensive minds there's ever been in football who he has on his payroll. Like, how arrogant and foolish do you think Les Snead is, guys? Come on at the end of the day. But something else that I think is true from this is it affirms that this pick was made for a very long time. And it tracks well. This isn't the first time we found this out, I'll say. It does track, though, with exactly what Tom Pelissero told us the day after the draft. If you follow me on Twitter, again, drop a follow because a lot of what we're talking about today, I've been talking about on Twitter over the last 24 hours pretty much relentlessly. So if you want the latest Rams news from me, definitely drop a follow. But this is something that I retweeted and I talked about a little bit. This segment from Tom Pelissero on NFL Network the morning after the draft, where he talked about the pre-draft process between Ty Simpson and the Rams. And it was separate from the secret meeting that Ty himself told us about. This was another different secret meeting, and Ty himself wasn't even involved. Let's hear. Way back in December, when Ty Simpson was still playing, his dad, Jason, was calling people that he knows in the NFL. Remember, Jason Simpson is the head coach at UT Martin, so a lot of NFL connections there. That he knows through football circles and basically seeking input on, hey, should my son come out in the draft? Should he transfer? Should he stay at Alabama? One of the people that he leaned heavily on and told him in December the floor is first round for Ty Simpson was Les Snead, the Rams general manager. So then they're out there in LA for the Rose Bowl. The Rams actually have Ty Simpson's parents over to the facility. They spend time with them. And when they ask, why should Ty Simpson come out in this draft? The answer was, because I'm going to take him with the 13th overall pick. There you go. There you have it. If you believe Tom Pelissero, which you probably should, he's a very well-respected NFL insider. He's got great sources on this thing. He's not going to talk out of his ass. There was no other outcome for the Rams at 13 than taking Ty Simpson. I think there was another outcome in the draft in general, which was trading down, but it was always going to be to better position themselves to take Ty Simpson. So if that was the plan, and it's generally accepted that Ty Simpson may have slid a little bit past 13, and widely NFL draft analysts are saying that we reached on this pick, why did they not trade down? Well, there's two schools of thought. One is Adam Schefter's, and this is new, actually, as of yesterday. A report from Schefter saying now the Rams were going to try to trade back. That was the plan. Hopefully move back to, say, Detroit at 17, get some extra picks and take Ty Simpson there. When their turn on the clock came, though, they didn't get any calls. That's what he says, and again, very well-respected insider. This doesn't really make sense to me, though. And the way he says it doesn't even really sound like he firmly believes that this might be true. He says, say Detroit at 17. I cannot imagine that Detroit at 17 would have ever been in the thought process of trading down. But when you walk this out, you kind of realize why the Rams did not trade down. Here's the problem, right? So the draft order, if we can all remember, Rams at 13, Ravens at 14. Are they going to take a quarterback? No, of course not. Bucks at 15. Are they going to take a quarterback? No, not likely. However, the New York Jets at 16 did take a quarterback in this draft. They waited until the fourth round to do it, but their quarterback situation is so unsettled. I do not think if the Rams truly believe, as it seems 100% clear that they knew, that Ty Simpson is their guy, that Ty Simpson is the future of the franchise, they could trust that the Jets did not feel the same way. Of course, the Jets didn't take him at 2 when they had an opportunity to do so. They went in a different direction, so maybe you could weigh that into the evaluation. But would they have passed if they had the opportunity to do it at 16? If you're the Rams, you could not have said that your confidence level on that was 100%. And if you truly want Ty Simpson, therefore you cannot be behind the Jets. And where are the Lions? Behind the Jets. So there were really only 2 options to trade with for the Rams on draft night, the Ravens and the Bucks. I don't know if there was an offer on the table from those teams. So maybe Schefter's right that there wasn't a trade offer that came through. But what doesn't make any sense to me is that the Rams would be or would have been targeting trading down to 17. But if you're wondering why the Rams didn't trade down, I think it is because they were in fear of the Jets at 16 stealing their guy, moving down a few spots and picking up a few extra picks, but losing the opportunity to take the guy that they felt confident was their future franchise quarterback. Okay, so one last takeaway from this whole situation, and maybe the smallest takeaway of all, but something that a lot of you seem to be hung up on, at least on Twitter. So I want to kind of acknowledge it here. Ty Simpson lied on draft night. Yes, this is true. He told SiriusXM after the draft, I have never talked to Sean McVay. I have not yet met Sean McVay, but I'm really excited to get to meet Sean McVay. Ross Tucker tweeted this out. And I think there's a couple of things here. One, my initial response to this was going to be, I don't know why he did this, but it really doesn't matter. But then we did find out, actually, why exactly he did this. But I'm still going to tell you it doesn't matter. But if you want to know why did he do it, Les Snead and Sean McVay told him to. It goes back to exactly what we were talking about earlier. And this is a theory that I've had for a long time and that I've shared before. Les Snead and Sean McVay are so protective of their own draft strategy that they inform prospects after the meeting is over not to tell anybody about it. And at the end of the day, that became true today or was confirmed as true today because Les Snead just said it outright on Pat McAfee's show. He just said, we tell prospects not to tell anybody when we meet with them, when we have these private visits. We say, hey, let's keep this between us. Let's not talk about this. And Ty Simpson, at the end of the day, had no idea when he was okay to be honest about that. I think that's honestly kind of funny. This 23-year-old kid, he's just like continuing the lie because he has no idea if he's going to get in trouble at work if he tells the truth at this point. He doesn't know, so he just continues to do it. And it's kind of funny. You feel a little bit bad for him because he looks a little silly for having lied about something that he really did not need to lie about at that point. But at the end of the day, if you have a problem with the Rams or Ty Simpson lying to you about the pre-draft strategy because you have some sort of expectation of honesty around the NFL draft, I think we need to wake up a little bit, my friend. I think we need to grow up a little bit, my friend. This is not a field in which it is expected that they're going to be publicly truthful with you. It's the draft. It doesn't do them any good to be publicly truthful with you. Of course, they're going to lie and say things that help their strategy around the draft. There were still 2 more days of draft to go after this. Of course, they're not going to confide everything that they had done. I don't know. I digress. I don't really think it matters that Ty Simpson lied on draft night to the media that he had not yet talked with Sean McVay when they had actually had a several-hour-long meeting. But let me know in the comments if that really matters to you. And if you made it to this point in today's video, make sure you slap a like on it as well as you're headed down to the comments. We always appreciate you guys joining us and spending some time with us to talk Rams football. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you guys then.